Got dreams of being a professional podcaster, but have no idea what you're doing?
This is impossible.
That's about to change.
A new kind of school.
Welcome to the Pod School Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the show. Today I'm going to be talking about rating your podcast. I get quite a few emails from people who ask me about whether they need to put an explicit tag on their show if they are dropping the old F-bomb left, right and centre. You might have noticed if you've already started your podcast that when you go into your podcast host to upload your episode, there is an option there to put a rating. You can either rate it clean, explicit or with no rating. Now, these are really Apple ratings and they are a bit of a hangover from music. They weren't designed specifically for podcasting. In fact, there aren't really any general regulations around podcasting because it is still in its infancy as an industry, and as the money is flowing in, so soon will the regulations. I'm positive of it. But for right now, it's really a self-regulated industry. Within Apple, if anybody is offended by your content, they can press the report a problem button. But really, these tags were designed for music, and you would have noticed on some music content, if it's really explicit, they'll have an explicit sign there. You can do the same with your show. I tend to put no rating on any of my podcasts because even if I've sworn in some of the episodes, which I have done from time to time in some of my past shows, I will always beep that out. So there's no actual swear words within the show. I think in my old show, Paul and Rach, we might have done one episode that we kind of talked about some blue stuff. So I put an explicit tag on there. But the thing about explicit, it really signals to an audience, oh, this is going to be kind of full on. And if your content is not full on, there's no need to label it explicit. If you are talking about some heinous stuff and you are dropping an F-bomb and whatever else bomb left, right and center, then maybe you can label your show explicit because you really want to make sure that when people press play, there are no rude shocks. One of the other ways that you can do that is if you don't give it an actual rating, maybe your show's not explicit, but it does talk about some difficult themes, or alternatively you are swearing in it but you're not bleeping those swear words out. It's a really good idea at the beginning of the episode to give a warning about the content, particularly if you are talking about any kind of content that could be triggering for people. And if you swear a lot, it's a really good idea to just signal that if you haven't beeped out those words. Basically, any kind of ratings or warnings are really just you being kind to your audience. You really, at all costs, want to avoid any situation where mum has got your show on in the car and then you say dick in it and she's got to explain to her 6-year-old what a dick is. That is not where you want to be because those emails, those complaint emails will flood in thick and fast. So really, any kind of rating or warning is to give an audience a sense of what they're going to get so there's no nasty surprises. Again, with the clean rating, that's very important that you have a squeaky clean show. Clean is saying to me, a baby could listen to this. Well, a baby probably could listen to it because they're not going to understand what's going on. But a child who understands the English language, if you've put clean on your show, that says to me this podcast is absolutely fine for kids. And the last thing you want to do is have anything in there that isn't okay for kids, because clean will give people a sense that they can play it in front of children. And if they can't, that's going to be a real problem. That's why I go with no rating. I think explicit sometimes can herald something that might be a lot further than you've actually gone. Explicit to me says really full on. Like you are going to talk about some really horrible stuff. So sometimes I don't think you need to go that far with explicit. I usually put no rating. If there's anything that you think that people might be offended by or upset by, then make sure you have a warning at the front of that episode so that they're not surprised. And only use clean if you are sure that you have nothing in there that could trip you up or have an audience listening to something where they think, wow, this is really awful and my kids shouldn't be listening to it. So just be mindful of that. Keep your listeners in mind. Think about all the types of listeners, not just your mates who are totally fine with swear words and don't care about that, but brand new listeners who might find swearing offensive. I have another episode in this series all about whether or not you should swear in your podcast. Don't worry, it's not me preaching, telling you that you're disgusting for saying swear words. I swear in my normal life every day almost. But I do give some guidance on how you can think about swearing when you're actually doing your podcast and whether it really adds anything to your show. You can check that out by scrolling back in the feed, or alternatively, you can head to the website for this podcast, podschoolpodcast.com, and just type swearing in the search bar there and it'll pop up. I'll also pop a link to that episode in the description of this show. I hope that's helped to solve some of the mystery around the rating system in podcast. It is not an exact science, so you just need to keep your audience in mind. If you need a little bit more help with your podcast, you can always head to podschool.com.au, which is my online podcasting course, and register to enroll there. I would love to help you go from just having a tiny little idea to actually making something that gets into people's ears. I'll see you next week, and until then, happy podcasting.
That's all for today.